y'all, welcome back to Milking Soul Ministries. I am so excited to be returning. After finishing John and taking a week off, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how the accountability in the community here is really good for me, how it really pushes me to continue to engage and think and sort of ponder on the truths that I'm pulling out of text. So the last week, 2 weeks, have been kind of sad in that way. But we are back, and I'm going to be laying the groundwork for the book of Romans, which is our next study, as well as sharing with you the logistics of how we are going to approach Romans. It's going to look a little bit different this time, something I'm really thrilled about, and I think is actually going to go better, make this study more cohesive instead of sort of more note-based, where our focus will be less on the structure of our notes and more on the actual content and sort of themes on which we are setting our eyes. I think it'll make what we pull out in the conversation we have look entirely different and probably more engaged and more excited, because we're all sort of rounding around the same bonfire instead of setting several bonfires, if that makes sense. So let's lay some groundwork for the book of Romans. It is written by the Apostle Paul, and he's writing it to the Roman Empire, the Roman people. He's sort of writing it to everyone, but the people that are going to have the most influence sort of in the church and on the church are the people who are probably going to get a hold of it. The time Bibles weren't just like floating around coming from Amazon in 2 days. But Paul was wanting to leave and attempting to garner support for his mission to Spain, where he was hoping to expand his ministry. At this point, he sees Rome, and correctly sees Rome as a very strong powerhouse, politically, financially, just totally influentially at that time in history. As we know, that is definitely the case for then and years to come. So he's basically looking at the people that he's been ministering to and saying, okay, y'all, I want to go and do this. Here is my sort of, I believe, blog post, if he was going to be a blogger at that time. Let me lay out what, my heart behind my ministry, but he also did it in context to them. I think that the context that he creates, the issues he sort of addresses for the Roman Empire are going to be really applicable to us today, both as U.S. citizens and just as people of the world. One of the big things that he focuses on is that, and the theme that we are going to continue, I just want to continue to sort of round back on, is the idea that everyone is invited to participate in the glory of God. Everyone is invited to have faith, to believe, to share in faith, because at that time, and I think this, use your noodle here, at that time the Jews and the Gentiles were the favored and unfavored, the upper class and the lower class, the people, the in-crowd and the out-crowd kind of thing, and I think we still have that today. I think we have it in lots of different ways. I don't think that it's specifically by race or tradition or culture, but the issue back then was that Jews were very conservative and very dedicated to observing the religious law, and the Gentiles were not. They were very sort of faith-based people. I think that we all have faiths like that, that vacillate between the performance and the dependence, I guess, on God. The performance for him, the dependence on him. The performance for him, the dependence on him. And it's a delicate balance, as is with everything. And it's something that the Romans were struggling with, and that I think we still struggle with today. I think it's just human nature. So just really applying these concepts, these ideas, and these themes to our lives is going to be really rich and really valuable, especially because Romans, I don't know that there's a book more relevant right now for us, especially just with things going on in the country. In the wake of Ferguson, as we look at sort of Ray Rice and the NFL crisis, and we have ISIS, and we have droughts, and we have floods, and just all this crazy stuff going on, and we want to make sense of it, and I think that Romans will help. If if anything, it might not help us make sense, but just help us realize we can maintain faith in this, and that's a really powerful thing. So really excited about that, obviously, because I'm talking like 20 miles a minute. Logistically, what this means is actually every week, instead of posting my notes, I will be posting my notes sometimes, but instead of specifically posting my notes, there will be 2 or 3 questions that are focused on themes or sort of what I feel challenged by, or specific verses possibly. None of it's going to be comprehension based. It's all going to be sort of, how do you feel about this? How do you process this? How does this apply to you kind of things. I don't want you to feel like this is a reading test. It's not. I want you to feel like the text is coming alive for us. It's turning into larger conversations, larger themes, larger applications to our own life. We've talked over and over again about the struggle with applying. Application's challenging. Totally get it. We're going to make it better with Romans. Secondly, something that's going to be happening is there's actually going to be a reading schedule. You can get it below. It'll be 10 weeks of reading through the book of Romans. There's 16 chapters, so some of the weeks will be doubled up, but most of them will not, and I'm really excited about that. In those 10 weeks, each week will have a theme or a central focus that is also on the reading chart or the reading schedule that's down below. I encourage you to print it out and put it in your Bible just so you have it. Something else that I'm going to be trying out that's different, you might have noticed this, is my mom, thanks Mom, told me about this. It is the book of Romans printed out on just printer paper. I think it's about 14 pages, and it is printed out in Cambria because that's the font I like. All I did is go on to Bible.org or Bible Gateway, any of those, and looked up Romans 1 through 16, copied and pasted it into a Word document, and made it how I wanted. I think that the idea is that this makes larger columns for you to write notes in. You can write between the text. You can highlight, things like that, if it doesn't feel comfortable doing that in your Bible. I'm really excited about having a more casual version of the text, though I don't know if I will love it or not, so I'm trying it out. This will be like flying around in here sometimes. I encourage you to try it if you so desire. Otherwise, I will let you know at the end of Romans how I feel about it, if I'm still in love or not. That said, I am done for the week. I'll see y'all next week. And again, super thrilled. Romans 1, the questions are below. I'll be focusing sort of on those and those themes next week. Otherwise, see y'all then.